What's up, guys? Welcome back to Strength 101, the podcast where we break down fitness and nutrition into its simplest forms so you can get the results that you want. Today, I am here for our first interview with a member. I have Jamie Galgowski with me. Jamie, what's up? How are you today?
Pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing great. It's been kind of a crazy day. We're in the middle of that Ignite program, and so it's got everybody sore. How are you liking the program so far?
Yeah, it's good. It's intense, but not too sore so far.
Do you like the high rep stuff, or do you prefer lower?
Depends the movement, but I mean, this week it's not killing me, so I'll take it.
Okay. I always take with a grain of salt what Jamie says kills her and doesn't, because what she says is not killing her is like murdering other people and they're laying on the floor. She's just so freaking fit. And that's what I really want to dig into today, is how at 39 years old with 3 kids, a busy life, a career, everything else, how did you get more shredded than most of the fitness influencers that are out there telling people how to run their lives? But in order to get into that, we're going to do a couple of things we like to do. First thing we're going to do is I'm just going to go rapid fire on a few questions. They should be pretty easy. I just want you to spit out the first answer, and that's going to let everybody learn a little bit more about who you are, and then we'll go from there. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Good? Okay. Awesome. How many kids do you have?
I have 3.
What is your profession?
I work in human resources.
Height?
5'6",
Weight?
140.
What's your body fat percentage, do you think? Do you know?
Yeah, so we have an at-home scale, so I don't know the accuracy of it, but about
Okay.
12%.
12%. That's pretty dang good. You guys all out there are hoping you're at 12%. Favorite lift?
Probably an RDL of any kind. I like
yeah?
single leg, single arm work.
Okay. We haven't done single leg RDLs in a long time. We have to
Yeah.
do that. Least favorite lift?
I would say bench press.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my
I feel like it's
gosh.
very humbling because I can never lift as much as I want.
Okay. We'll work on that.
We do a
after
lot
this.
of it, so.
We'll get you a breakthrough on that. Favorite muscle on yourself?
My arms.
Your arms?
Yeah.
Your arms are well known around the gym. Muscle you wish was more developed on you?
My glutes.
Okay. Awesome. Well, there you go. The RDLs. No wonder
Yes.
you like them. Cut or bulk? What do you prefer?
I have not bulked before. I mean, the thought of eating a lot of food sounds great, but mentally, I feel like it'd be something to overcome. So I guess I would say cut.
Yeah. You're like a professional at cutting.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see you go through a bulk, though, because you already got a decent amount of muscle mass on you. It'd be, oh man, you could get huge.
Might be my future.
Yeah. We'll get you on stage. Favorite high protein meal?
I mean, I'm gonna go basic. I like grilled chicken breast
Okay.
with any sort of vegetable on the side, and I think the reason I like it so much is because I can just eat a ton of it.
Yeah, you can just
So volume to me means a lot more than other things.
awesome. What about your favorite cheat meal? Like if you can really go off the rails, what do you do?
Probably just a really good cheeseburger.
Okay. Excellent. So you're a big meat fan, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys, when you guys had us over, you had like, what was it that he made? I know you're going to know the specifics of exactly what we ate. It was like strip steak, tacos or something.
Yes. Well, we had shrimp,
Yep.
chicken thighs, and strip steak, I think was it.
Yeah. You guys eat like that every night?
I wish.
God, it was so freaking good. So, and Jamie's husband, Tony, how much weight is he down now? It's been about a year since he started this whole process, right?
June 1st.
Yeah.
So June 1st of last year, he lost 104 pounds, and I think that was right around 9 months.
Absolutely insane. We're going to have him on too, but you guys are just, it's insane when I see the both of you. You just look like you're the fittest couple that I've ever seen. And you guys are so humble about it. And you've got, I would say that you above anybody else in our gym, I would say there's people in other classes that like know who you are and kind of like know the legend of how fit and how shredded you become. And of course, some of the pictures of your before and afters have made it online. Do people talk to you about it? Like, do you?
Yeah, sometimes I'll get messages from members asking for tips if they're doing body comp or, just looking for meals. So occasionally they'll reach out, but
Yeah.
not a whole lot in class.
Okay. But yeah, I just wonder what it feels like to be famous.
Yeah.
That's got to be so cool. So one of the things we love to do on here so that you can give more context to your life and we really know what your background is we're going to do a 3-minute life story. So I'm just going to put 3 minutes on the clock and let you tell, and you just let this go wherever you want. You can tell as much or little about your childhood and whatever's important to you. You just send it. And I'll let you know when you're getting close. I'll give you a heads up when we're close to the 30 seconds and we'll go from there. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
All right, let's do it. Let's see here. 3-minute timer. 3, 2, 1. Tell us about yourself, Jamie.
All right. Well, as you said, I'm 39 and I have 3 kids. My kids are 3, 7, and 9. They go to the River Falls School District, which is we're very happy with. My husband and I, Tony, as you mentioned, we have been together since high school. So we dated throughout high school and college, got married right after college, and have been together ever since. So it's been a joy most of the time. No, but he has been a huge supporter of mine through my journey. And again, he's joined me on that, which has been a huge help in my success. I really like that my kids have been able to see us develop into what we are, or what, the habits that we've formed. I think that's really had a big impact on them. But gosh, what else about me? I grew up in Spring Valley,
Okay.
Wisconsin, so local, and Tony
How
grew
big
up
Spring
here.
Valley, just for some context for people who aren't
Yeah,
around here?
I don't know current state. I guess growing up it was about 1,200 people, so my graduating class was just under 70, so pretty small group. I like being a little bit bigger community now, but still, I guess, enough of a small town feel. I work in human resources and have pretty much my whole career. I have an addiction to coffee.
There you go.
So I think that was one thing, going through a cut, trying to determine how to still be able to indulge. I have a huge sweet tooth, so I have dessert every day. That's a must. Mm, I don't know. Most of my friends I've met at the gym, so I feel like that's really where I've built my community.
What about in like your youth? So like you
Yeah.
grew up in a small town.
Yep.
If I remember correctly, you and Tony met in FFA, right? Didn't you?
4-H.
4-H.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yep. Close
similar.
enough.
Yeah. That's the person who knows the difference between
Yeah.
4-H and FFA. No. It was so. What about like through high school and stuff? Were you an
Yeah,
athlete?
I
Were you ever
was.
into lifting, like all this different stuff?
Yeah, no, I always had the so I was an athlete. I played slow pitch 4-H softball, so I never played through school.
It's softball through 4-H.
They did.
It's
Yep.
great. Throw a head of lettuce.
Yeah, pretty much. And then I played volleyball and basketball in high school, so everybody made the team. I mean, I feel like I was a pretty good competitor, but
Yeah.
small town. So I played those 2 sports, and then in college I played intramurals. And I always was under the impression that I had to do a lot of cardio to lose weight. And so I always tried to be in shape, but that meant I forced myself to run, which I hated. And
Do you run now?
only if I'm being chased or if I have to.
Fair. You get chased a lot?
Only by my kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I like to avoid that. So I do get people.
There we go. Keep going though.
Okay.
This is great.
I do get people that I haven't seen in a while, and I had somebody come up and say, "Do you just running your butt off now?" And I am very proud to say that I can respond and say, "I run very little, and running is not part of my day-to-day activities because I feel like I'm so happy that I found something that works that gets me in shape that does not involve running."
Yeah. Did you run for quite a long time? Like just kind of with that mentality that this is the only way I'm getting to where I want to go? Not
Yeah,
just
I would say,
locationally, but from a fitness standpoint?
I would say for a couple years.
Okay.
Yeah, and I pretty much dreaded every minute.
Did you get pretty into it? How long were you running?
The longest I've run was a 10-mile run.
Okay. That's pretty long.
Yeah, I wouldn't probably never do it again, and I've not run that since. But
Sure. Yeah.
yeah.
So let's dig into that a little bit. Okay, so let's say you end high school, right? What type of shape were you in? Are you in better shape right now?
Yeah,
Than you were in high
I'm
school.
easily the best shape of my life. Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild. Were you always pretty strong? Now, did you guys lift in high school sports? I mean, we're the same age range, and it was barely a thing when I was there.
Yeah. No, we didn't lift.
Okay. At all, huh?
No, not that I recall in high school.
Yeah. Small school too.
Yeah.
I just don't have all that stuff. I remember my high school was very small as well. How big was your graduating class, you said?
Just under 70.
Oh, see, you beat me. Mine was
Yeah.
89.
Oh.
Okay, so my high school, they got a lifting class so that you could opt out of gym and go into lifting the year after I graduated. I
Oh,
was pretty
good
furious
timing.
about that. But yeah. So, okay, so you were an athlete, and I'm sure you were in plenty good shape, but did you always have kind of the muscles that you have now, or were those developed over time too?
I mean, I may have had them, but they may have been hidden.
Okay.
So
So let's say I'm
I've,
not trying to dig super deep into it,
yeah.
but like what's, were you relatively thin? Did you ever go through like a chubby phase in life?
Yeah, I would say I got thinner in college, oddly enough.
Okay.
In high school,
Everybody else went the opposite way.
yeah, maybe. Um, but I would say I was a little bit chunkier in later years in high school. I was always very active, but I actually used to tell people too that I worked out as hard as I could so that I could eat what I wanted.
There you go.
Because I've always really liked food, but at some point I feel like that just catches up with you and there has to be a better balance.
Yeah.
So,
So then you were thinner through high school, but through college, did
mhm.
you always work out? Was that always a habit for you, or
Yeah.
was it something you had to learn? So that was just like ingrained from day one kind of for you?
Yeah, I was always very active. It just how I was active or the activities that I was involved in changed over time.
Sure. Did your parents, were they active people? I feel like every generation you go back, the definition of active is very different. It's not like either of our sets of parents were probably in the gym, you know?
Right. Yeah, my dad farmed, so I feel like that, he's very active in that sense, but as far as going to a gym and things like that, not really.
Yeah. So when I say you were being active in college, was it
Mhm.
more like recreational out like sports and stuff like that? Or did you always kind of have a fitness regimen where you worked out?
I always worked out. I would say there was no plan in place
Sure.
necessarily. I would go early morning and study for tests and things like that while I worked out, and so it was again purely cardio and
Me and you were very opposite college people.
no, I always joke I would go to the wellness center at the hospital early in the morning and I would be working out with a bunch of elderly people who were talking about where they're going to have breakfast.
Yeah.
So, and then I did that before my 8 o'clock class. So I've always been a morning
Was
person,
that
but
because you worked at the wellness center? What were you doing at the hospital?
that's where my mom had a membership, and so she and I
Okay.
occasionally would
Where'd you go to
go
school?
there at River Falls.
Oh, okay.
So
So wait, like in the hospital that like is over.
yeah,
Oh, okay. No
the
joke. They had a
rehab.
gym over there?
Yeah, it's a small rehab facility.
Okay. You were getting the special treatment, huh?
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool. So what was it? What do you think is the reason that you always worked out? If your parents weren't necessarily people that worked out, was that just something that you did you even have to question it? It was just something you always did, or was there a reason that you were working out?
I'm trying to think back. I mean, it always has made me feel really good. I like to feel strong and feel accomplished. And I mean, maybe some of it was like mental health. It has always been something that has, like, if I feel stressed or overwhelmed, it's always helped me kind of feel grounded
Yeah.
and get rid of that stress. I always said too, at the time, it made me feel better to work out later in the day, because then any sort of stress or anxiety from the day, it was kind of a release.
Yeah. That's such a massive thing, and I don't
Yeah.
I don't think you understand it until you actually do it frequently enough to really get that feeling. But sometimes I'll be around the gym here, and like yesterday, actually, this happened where I was planning on waiting until later in the day to work out, and I was just in this brain fog. I had kind of a rough morning. I was a little bit overwhelmed, and I just was okay. I'm going to put my work away for a second. I'm just going to go lift, and it's like that 1 hour when I came out of it, all my problems seemed easier,
Hmm.
and so it's definitely a cheat code. But at that point, any lifting?
What's that?
At that point, any lifting were you doing, or was it just
Yeah,
going in, doing some running, doing some abs?
I would do a little bit of lifting. Again, I feel like I still don't know how to use machines. I've always done free weights and struggled through it, but a little bit of lifting here and there. But thinking back, I probably had no clue what I was doing.
Yeah. So then you carry on, you move forward with your life. Did you just continue a fitness regimen? You were always pretty regimented?
Yeah,
You're pretty type A. I could see this being like, yep, nope, I've missed 3 workouts in my life.
yeah. No, I went to the Y here when we had a YMCA in town and took classes then. Started that shortly after college or in college. And then when the Y closed, found a new place to go. And so I feel like the class setting has always been a big motivator of mine and
Yeah.
something I've always been interested in.
What other classes were around here that you tried?
Well, I went to a gym called Body Rocks.
Okay. I've heard of that place. What did they do there?
They did like body pump, body step,
Les Mills.
Les Mills
Yeah. So
courses.
there's
Yep,
some lifting with that, but it's all like timer based basically, right? It's like
correct. Yeah.
just kind of constantly going.
Yep. And then I used to take spin classes
Okay.
at the Y, and then I was a member at Midwest Health and Fitness.
Heck yeah.
So,
We love that place. We're
yeah.
going to get Chris on the podcast.
Oh, that'd be
Yeah, I
awesome.
reached out to him. Right now, I think he's prepping for a show. And for those of you listening, Chris Spafford is an IFBB pro that lives near here, and we're really excited to interview him. But we're gonna wait until after he gets done with his diet, so that he's not in a complete brain fog when he's in here. I think we're gonna try to take it to him too, and so that we
Yeah.
can be actually in the gym. I go there on the weekends actually, because with some of the stuff with my knee rehab, machines are best for it. So okay, let's dial back a little bit. What age did you have your first kiddo?
30.
30? Okay. And then what about your fitness after that? Where did you put on a bunch of weight with the pregnancy? That's usually the hardest time for most people. So
Yeah.
most stories we get from women walking in the gym is like, oh, I was so fit until I had my dang kid and then he screwed my body up.
Yeah.
How was that for you?
I mean, it's definitely different. I think I gained 36 pounds with every pregnancy.
Okay.
And I started each pregnancy at the same weight. So I got back down to my pre-pregnancy weight, just things, sat
You're
a
like
little
the
bit
most
differently.
regimented person. You gained the exact same
I
weight with
did,
every
yeah.
pregnancy. Started at the same point.
But the odd
Was that
thing is,
intentional though?
I mean, I always try to be mindful
Okay.
of where I was going. I think what I'm proud to say though is that I think 26 pounds lighter now than I was at any of the beginning of any of my pregnancies.
Really?
And so
So you're more like 166. How tall are you again?
5'6".
5'6". So yeah, it's not like, I mean, that's not like overweight necessarily or anything, but that's a significant amount more weight than you carry around now. I know you're shredded to the bone right now, but you got to look back at pictures and you look completely different.
Yeah. Yeah, I certainly do.
And I've seen pictures of you before you kind of got to where you are now, and nobody would say that you looked fit still. Like you looked traditionally fit, where it's like you can clearly see some muscles in your arms and you got like good shapes to your muscles, but you weren't like really defined or anything. So that was kind of the thing through the whole pregnancy then. And then how old were you when you had your last kid?
Well, she's 3 now, so 36.
Okay. How did you lose the weight when you were like post kiddos?
Yeah, so after my first, I did some personal training with Chris,
Excellent.
and he helped me, get into that mindset. I feel like it's always a struggle after you have a kid, at least for me, and I would say a lot of women, maybe men too, but trying to find that balance of, I was nursing at the time, so trying to balance that expectation and just sleep deprivation. And I would still try to get up and work out in the morning, but especially after my second kid, he would only sleep with, like, he would wake up early and then he would only fall back asleep if he was sleeping with me.
Yeah,
And so
that's
I was
tough.
like, if he's going to sleep, I need to sleep. And it's just trying to find that balance. Yeah, I would say huge kudos to my husband, Tony, as well, as trying to help support me and, being willing to watch the kids and take on that
He helped
extra
keep it
work
a
too.
priority for you?
Yeah. Yep. Help me focus on that.
Yeah. What do you think helped you during that time? There's probably people listening to this right now that are going through. You're right. I don't know what it's like from the women's side of it, but I know that even just when we've had both of our kids,
Yep.
just the routine shift of it. You're right. Like the sleep deprivation, but the sleep deprivation isn't even nearly as bad for the guys, but just the routine shift of all the different things you have to pay attention to and loss of motivation, and especially with your first one, all
hmm
of a sudden it's complete priority shift. Like you've lived your life up until now being able to focus on yourself so much, and then all of a sudden everything shifts and it's like whatever's good for this kid is my first priority, and most of the time it's like you are bottom. So what if somebody is going through their first pregnancy or their first newborn phase where all that's happening, and they're kind of waiting because they're not sure if their body's ready, and they're also trying to figure out how they're going to fit in their routine? What's some things that helped you?
Yeah. I mean, I think it even applies now is, I've heard a lot of people comment about how important movement is even outside of the gym. So getting any sort of movement in your day. I really try to prioritize walks. So stroller walks, just being out and about, and knowing that some of that'll just come with time,
Mm-hmm.
and, giving your body what it needs and fueling correctly. And again, I think just time, it's hard when you're in it and experiencing it, but time, you know, I guess when I was going to the gym and working out at those times, and I was working out with people that were 20 years older than me, I was like, oh, there is life after kids.
Yeah.
Like it does come back, and, I can experience this again and get back to where I need to be. Just eventually we'll get there.
Excellent. So when you were losing weight after the kids, were you aware now, did you work with Chris after just the last one, or did you work after every single one with Chris?
I think I only worked out with him after I had my first.
Oh, okay. So when did you kind of, because Chris obviously as an IFBB pro, I'm guessing that he, was heavy on, you know, knowing what your caloric intake is, what are your
Mhm.
macronutrients, probably pretty regimented meals. What kind of stuff did he give you? How did he get you there? And was this the first time that you ever started thinking about calories and how important that was, or were you aware of that before this?
I mean, to an extent, I had tried tracking, like, just on my own using, like, my Fitness Pal and things
Sure.
like that, a little bit differently than, how we've done through Body Comp, just
Hmm.
because I was like, "Ooh, I worked out and gained 1,000 calories. I'm gonna eat those."
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I'm going to pause you there. So
okay.
anybody who's listening, if you track things on your Apple Watch or your Garmin or Fitbit or whatever it is, and it gives you a bunch of calories that you burned, one most like especially if it tells you burned 1,000 calories in like an hour, even an hour and a half workout, that's probably a high guesstimate. And if you go and try to eat those extra calories, you are just going to be so sad with your results. It's such a backwards thing. And I think most people think that way too. They're like 500 calories I burned. Treat myself.
Mhm.
Yeah. Sorry, I cut you off, but
No, that's
continue.
okay. I was always just very excited when I got those extra calories
Yeah.
because I was gonna eat them. But, so to clarify, I worked out and trained with Chris after my first, but I did after I had my third. I was about 9 months postpartum and reached out to Chris and did some online or
Okay.
virtual training with him, and that's when he provided me with, some macros that I could track, calories
Yeah.
and protein and, I guess calories were a little bit less of a significance at the time, but it was more around, protein and fats and carbs.
Yeah. So for after your first kiddo, you were just doing the training and maybe he wasn't
Mhm.
managing your nutrition, but then on the third one, you guys started doing managing the nutritional side with online.
Correct. Yep.
And then for anybody who's listening to, that's just kind of it's more the bodybuilder way to do it because they're so concerned with what their condition looks like and their proportions of carbs and fats can change how they look on stage so much that likely he's controlling for calories, but he's delivering it to you as a macronutrient
Mhm.
control. But he probably he understands where the limit is on calories, and I'm sure you were loosely aware of it too. But yeah, and how'd that work? What was the
I
results?
worked well. If I remember correctly, it was 8 weeks and I lost about 15 pounds.
Awesome.
So, I was super
Yeah.
happy with it at the time.
Hell yeah. Especially after a kiddo.
Yeah.
And so, were you training with them at the time too?
Yeah, he provided me with, trainings that I could do at home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. So what do you think because there's all these different options, right? Like you've done it where you've had a personal trainer, you've done it where you go to group classes before, you've done it. I'm guessing it sounds like you were working out at home
Mhm.
after that third one.
Yeah.
What was your favorite? What do you recommend for people that are
I
going through this stuff?
Yeah, I really like the class setting. That was really hard for me to take a step back when COVID hit, I guess was when the first time I didn't have a gym membership. Prior to COVID, I probably had 3,
Okay.
like, at the same time that I, may or may not have been
You bought gym
utilizing.
memberships like Matresa buys shoes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then during COVID, I started working out from home. I bought a Peloton bike, which I still
Go
love.
to for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. But I really like it. I think sometimes that motivation can be lacking with at-home workouts. Is definitely something you have to keep yourself, on with. But I think what hit me and it's similar to what we're doing in the programs here is that repetition to not change things up so often.
Yeah.
And that's really what I learned through the training with Chris. And then again, what I experience here in class is to like you don't have to make it too complex or confusing. It's, finding those same movements and continuing to, work through those week after week and just progressing either in heavier weights or different reps and figuring out what that looks like.
Yeah. Getting good at the basics.
Yeah.
Is that what you learned with them the first time that you trained with them, or was it more like the third time around or
I would
after the
say
third kiddo?
the most recent time.
Okay.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
first time
How
I
long
think
would
he
he keep
just
you on a
did
program?
what's that?
Sorry, continue. What were you
Oh,
saying?
I was just gonna say the
Cut you off.
first time that I worked with him, I think from what I recall, I mean, it was quite some time ago.
Yeah.
I mean, I just showed up and did what he told me to do. So I
Sure.
just followed his lead and,
Yeah, you
you know,
weren't really like questioning it and being
yeah.
like, "What am I doing here? What am I growing?"
Mm,
But you're a learner. I'm sure you were paying attention to it, and I would imagine you look stuff up on your own quite a bit, just knowing you. Is that true?
yeah. I mean, I'd like to do it more than I do, but I also try to just lean on people that have that knowledge and take in as much as I can.
Yeah, you can always just ask us now.
Yeah.
So, how long would Chris keep you on programs?
So the last one, like I said, was about 8 weeks.
Okay.
And so he ran it, for a specific time frame.
Yeah, that you were on the same lifts for the most part for 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
See, that's great. And I would almost prefer sometimes for us to be on 8-week cycles for programs. We chain it up a little bit more because we have so many different people that some of them
Hmm.
get bored. But that's huge. And like, so for people that are listening, what she's really saying is you get your most muscle mass growth from getting really good at the basics and just getting stronger at them. And there's only one way to do that is if you actually practice them frequently enough. So if you're constantly hopping from program to program, or you see something on Instagram and then you start chasing these weird exercises, you just don't get good enough at anything to actually pick up heavy enough weights to grow muscle. And so even if you were to stick to just the basics and you were to like bench press and overhead press and squat, do some pull-ups and do some deadlifts, and you just focus for 8 weeks or 3 months or however long you need to on just getting stupid strong on those, that's going to give you the foundation that leads you to having muscle like Jamie has on her now. So then once you got done with Chris, though, what was your body state like? Because like we know what you're at now, like you're 12% body fat, you're
Yeah.
extremely fit. Obviously, you're stacking on muscle, and you've had a legitimately shredded 6-pack at least in the last several months. I've seen it. What state were you in then?
I was, like I said, I think I lost about 15 pounds. I could see more definition in my arms, but my
Yeah,
lower body, I've always carried more weight in my lower body, and so that was really something I was trying to improve.
yeah.
So I mean, I felt improvement. It was just, I wasn't where I wanted to be.
Yeah. What do you think was driving you to be? What was it that? Where did you want to be? Is it where you are now?
I mean, I feel good where I am now.
Yeah.
I don't know really where I wanted to be.
Just
I
better.
think, yeah, just better. I don't know.
Yeah. What do you think was driving that?
I think it just feels so good that again, it just some of it I feel like is mental sanity of the stress of life and chaos. I can say one of the reasons why I initially started body comp is that I felt, I don't know if stuck is the right word, but I just didn't feel like I had any sort of like focus, and things just seemed to be kind of chaos, and I wanted something to focus on.
Yeah.
And so something to like put my attention towards, and something to do.
Are you pretty goal oriented?
I'd like to think so.
Yeah. No, I would say you are just from
Yeah.
like working with you and seeing how you are in here. And that's interesting to me to see where you're going to go next too, because like at that point, when we're talking about, you said 36 was the age you had your last kiddo, right?
Yeah.
And so now you've been lifting since you were, or not lifting, but you've been training consistently since you were probably like 15, 16 years old between sports and everything else. You're going to like people that have trained that long. If you don't have a goal to go at, you may have the habit of working out, but that's exactly what it is. It's just working out. It's just exercising until you set a goal and you actually put some intention towards reaching that. That's what then forms what you decide to do and what you decide not to do. And at that point you're training. And I think that's when it gets fun again too, is when you actually are like, okay, I'm going to aim for this thing, because then every time that you kind of take a step in that right direction, you're getting more motivation that you're like, oh, I'm getting closer. I'm getting there. Whereas if you have an undefined goal, you're like, okay, I got a good sweat in. Good for
Yeah.
me. I was a good boy, but
Mhm.
where are you going? So what was you started here, and then was it body composition when it really like shifted for you, or when did you realize that you could become what you are now? Because I think there's a lot of people out there listening to this that maybe
Mhm.
they might have been here for the last 2 years working out, but they still don't believe that they could be where you're at from a body fat percentage level. Was there a point where you were like, no, I can do this, or at least it's worth trying?
Yeah, once I started body comp and started to see the results, I think that's really what hit me is, I think you've stated this in one of your previous podcasts, is that sometimes people have a number in their head of like, oh, my body just sits at this weight, or, I'm just like, my body just can't lose weight beyond this point.
Yeah.
And I think that's been in my head before because I was always at the same weight or always hitting the same, what felt like limitations. And so when I was doing body comp and the weight actually started to come off, and it was, I wouldn't say easy because
Yeah.
there's struggles, but as far as how to truly understand, what the expectations were or the goals that were set in place for me, that was easy to understand. And so I think seeing those results, it was like, oh, I can do this and,
Yeah.
have success.
What I wonder what was different. So you've done regimented programs before. You've worked
Mm,
with Chris, and Chris is extremely good at what he does, and he gets people shredded all the time. And we're big fans of different strokes for different folks. I always wonder what it is, because we have people that have tried 3, 4, 5 different weight loss programs, accountability programs, and then sometimes body composition is just the thing that clicks for them. What was
Mhm.
different, whether it was a difference with you and your mentality and place in life, or a difference in the way that we were communicating things? What do you think allowed you to make a change that you couldn't get past before?
I think really talking about that food, like there's no food that's off limits. And so if I want to have, you know, dessert every night like I do, I make sure to set aside, 400 calories of whatever my limit is to have dessert every night. And it might mean that I eat chicken every night or
Yeah.
that I, eat cleaner meals or smaller meals so that I can make that happen. And so it's really, for me, it was I can eat whatever I want. I just have to make it work.
Yeah. Well, and it was different before that. Like, did you kind of think there were just foods you couldn't eat, or that they would just pack fat on you, type of thing?
I mean, yeah, I would say before I ever um had like a specific program and tried to track on my own, I would eat what I would normally eat, cereal for breakfast, which, it's not horrible, but
Sure. Ooh, what's your favorite cereal?
mm, I mean, lately I feel like cinnamon toast crunch is going
Oh,
around my
hell
house.
yeah.
Yeah,
Do you drink the cinnamon milk afterwards?
of course.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
good. If you said no, then I was going to be like, you're crazy. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's just just a mind shift. Tony and I both are, again, we like to see our plates full, and so it's trying to figure out, what's the most amount of food that we can eat and for the, lowest amount of calories. So
Were your parents of that farm mentality where it's you eat what's on your plate, or it's kind of disrespectful?
yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah. My
Yeah.
parents are the same way. If you took it, you had to eat it, and
Yeah.
I don't care if you're not hungry.
Yeah, that was very much my grandparents who farmed as well as
Yeah.
yeah, if it was on my plate, I was expected to eat it.
Backfired on some of society now,
Yeah.
right? Took me a long time before I would say no to eating what else was on my plate and put
Mm,
it back. I would just stuff food all the time, just because of like, my mom's gonna yell at
yeah.
me, and I'm like, 24 in my own apartment. I'm like, Mom, but cool. Well, sorry, what were we just talking about there? We were talking about what was different as far as body comp. So you said that the food, being able to eat the variety of foods.
Mhm.
And then, was that the biggest thing then? Is you were just like, oh, I have more freedom. And was it
Yeah.
easier then, or was it?
Yeah, I think it was easier, and for me personally, it was easier just to focus on proteins and calories
Yeah,
versus all of the macronutrients. Just easier for me to only have a few things to focus on
sure.
and really get behind and understand.
Yeah. So when you started losing weight, because do you remember what you started body comp as, weight wise?
I want to say I was around 155.
155. So about 15 pounds heavier than you are now.
Yeah.
And you didn't get there in the first session, did you? You didn't get completely shredded in the first session?
No,
The
I
second
mean
one?
I feel like I was successful, but yeah,
Yeah.
I maybe ended around 148, I'd say.
Okay. And that's only like 8 pounds off of what you are now, right?
Yeah.
And so most people would look in the mirror at that point, and your before and after pictures, and we'll put them in the YouTube video. Guys, if you're watching the YouTube video, you gotta, or if you're on the podcast, click over the YouTube video, because we'll put before and after. Is that okay with you? I
Yeah,
should
it's
ask you
fine.
first. We'll put before and after pictures of Jamie, because it really is insane. In her before pictures, that at least that we've seen, she definitely doesn't look like somebody who doesn't work out. You look like you work out, but you don't look like insanely shredded person. And then all of a sudden, all your veins are out. You got a six pack, everything else. At 148, when you look in the mirror and you've lost whatever that is, 8+ pounds,
Mhm.
you're already at a lower body fat percentage than most people that you're around. What made you look in the mirror and be like, more?
I think going back to maintenance,
Yeah,
had a little bit of a shift, but then I was talking to Tony about it and I was like, would you have any interest ever? And, he's, always been active, but not really been in the gym and been into this before. And, one day he said, oh, I'll do this if you'll do it with me. And so I was like, sure, why not?
there you
And
go.
so,
So and I'm sorry that I don't completely remember this, but so your second time going through body comp was when Tony started it,
yeah.
right? Okay. And what changed about that when you guys were doing it together? Was it harder when he wasn't doing it? Because he had to have had different eating habits.
Yeah, I would say, he was always, like I said, very supportive of me doing it and tried to adjust. But there were nights when we, may have, the rest of the family had pizza and I would eat it, but then I would have a piece. And again,
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. I made it work. But again, for me, it was a lot easier when I could manipulate our meals so that I could just eat more throughout the rest of the day
Yeah.
and
Just
build off
everybody
of
in
that.
line. What about
Yeah.
your kids? How they react to suddenly you guys changing up your eating habits, or do they not even really notice? Do you get any
Um,
kickback from them?
no, they would question sometimes about, us weighing our food and things like that.
Yeah.
So just trying to navigate like what those conversations are, because I think that there is benefit in having those conversations with the kids, but also not like stressing over it or making it seem like it's a I don't know, positive or negative thing.
Yeah. It's going to
But
be so cool because there's so many people in the gym now that have adopted similar habits to you where it's maybe they're not always weighing their food, but they're conscious of calories, they're conscious of protein. And we have, now that we've been doing kids workouts and stuff, there's so many kids that are kind of half involved in the gym and are always interested in what their parents are doing. Just all of us growing up in the same town. It's going to be so cool to kind of see all these kiddos grow up, kind of get into their adult habits and see
mhm,
whether there's a correlation between the parents that modeled this type of behavior and what they end up doing. Because I'm a huge advocate that I think one of the reasons I'm so into fitness is because I saw my dad come up from the weight room in our basement 3 days a week, sweating and happy as hell. And it just ingrained in me that lifting makes you happy and a good adult man lifts.
mhm.
And so I never really questioned it after that. With do your kiddos, I know you've mentioned that they'll come down and lift weights with you guys sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were they doing that before ever?
No. No,
That's
I was
cool as hell.
yeah. No, it's really awesome, and I get home from the gym in the morning, and usually at least one of my 3 is up, and my youngest will always just ask, "Were you working out, mommy?" And so
Yeah.
it's fun to see, and, I can say my oldest told me the other day that I need to continue lifting as I get older because she wants to know what a buff chick old lady will look like, and I was like, "I think that's a compliment."
New goal.
I don't really know, so,
We're gonna get you a T-shirt. This is buff chick old lady.
yeah.
That's pretty dang cool. So what was the coolest part about getting shredded? Because most people don't get to experience that, and I'm sure there are people that are listening right now that have always wondered what it would really be like to get in that good a shape. What was really freaking cool about it? If you're really speaking honestly.
I mean, I just feel so good and like comfortable in my clothes, and I feel good in the gym. It feels good to lift heavy weight.
Yeah.
I
Do you
like
find yourself flexing in the mirror more at home as you got? You can be
um
honest.
I mean, my kids like to flex, and so sometimes we do it, and they'll say, I don't know, I was cooking dinner the other night, and my oldest said, "Why are you so strong?" or "How are you so strong?" and so I think that's fun, is just
Yeah.
showing my girls especially that, it's okay to have muscles and be strong and lift heavy things, and
Hell yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
That's huge. Do you catch Tony flexing in the mirror now that he's lost all this weight?
Probably does that in private.
Yeah, he's private about his. Um, yeah, it's just gonna be. I think the narrative has shifted so much on women and muscle too. I mean, even since we were in like high school,
Mhm.
I don't think there was as much of a push if you weren't an athlete to lift weights at all. I don't remember my sister really being concerned about it, but now I even see with our younger coaches that are 22 years old, it seems to be so much more of a habit, or maybe it's the advent of Instagram that everybody kind of wants to be seen as like a lifting person or whatever. But yeah, it'll be really cool to see if your kiddos follow in your footsteps, especially the
Mhm.
girls. But what else? What else was cool about getting shredded? It's got to be kind of cool that people like comment to you all the time, right? Or do you
Yeah.
not like that? You're a pretty humble person.
No, I mean, I like when they reach out because I'm happy to, offer any tips or, tricks that I've learned along the way. Sometimes it's a little bit intimidating, but I feel like it drives me and gives me more motivation. One of my favorite quotes that I've heard recently is competition to uplift, never to destroy.
Hell yeah.
And,
I like
I
that.
heard that from one of the Peloton instructors through one of the classes I was taking, but I think that really hits in here because like I think competition's good. I think,
Yeah.
looking around and seeing what other people are lifting, or, trying to go head to head with somebody, I think that's really helped me push forward and be able to lift heavier, is challenging myself and challenging others and them doing the same back to me. But it doesn't have to be a bad thing.
You're really good at
So
that too. Like you'll challenge somebody or put a weight in front of somebody, but it's not because you're trying to destroy them or anything. It's because you're just saying, no, we're going to go harder and you can do this and you just don't believe it yet. Can you say that quote again?
competition to uplift, never to destroy.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's huge because I can say as somebody who has some toxic competitive traits that there's definitely, especially when I was younger, I don't think I think like this much anymore. When I think about being competitive, sometimes it is the desire for somebody else to lose. You're like, I want to see you go down. Maybe you're even a little bit cheerful when they fail. And hopefully people can
Yeah.
avoid that side of it. What sacrifices did you have to make to get to where you are? Like, I guess what I'm thinking about, just to give some more context, is you know, somebody watching this with 3 kids that feels like their life is just completely hectic and there's just no way that this would work for them. What sacrifices did you have to make to be able to put this as a priority when you
hmm
have a full career, you got a whole family to take care of, you're just busy?
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, I think that because there is a give and take, obviously
Hmm.
it takes time to initially figure out how to track food and to make cooking a priority or getting to the gym. M- For me, I feel like my cleanliness of my house has taken its toll.
Okay.
And I feel like something that just has to naturally take the
Yeah.
back burner. And you have to figure out what that is. And focusing on yourself, and, I think is always a good thing, especially, you've talked about my kids and seeing that they are experiencing that along with us. But then I think just being honest with yourself when we're looking at like tracking food and weighing things and just being mindful, that has been a big shift and making sure that I'm being diligent about that. I also think it really helps that, body comp is, I think the first time I did it was 12 weeks, but now it's
Yeah.
only 8 weeks long. And knowing that some of those sacrifices that you're making are temporary. So if that's one thing too, I feel like that helped with this program compared to what I've done in the past is in the past, I always thought like, oh, I can't have the cookie or can't have pizza and this is how I'm going to eat forever because I'm going to have these goals forever.
Yeah.
And knowing that like this cut is only 8 weeks. So I may not have, I may not go out for, fajitas and margaritas or something like that, but in 8 weeks I can. And,
Yeah.
and, and knowing that it's really a temporary restriction.
That's huge. I think that's got to be one of the biggest reasons that the gym, whether it's the training side or whether the nutrition side, can be so overwhelming for people, is because it feels like you're having to restrict yourself so much and that it's a permanent forever
hmm
thing. And we're such big advocates of sprinting. I'm even an advocate. We don't talk about it much, but I'm an advocate for this in your training as well. That there's just seasons to your life. Sometimes things are in order, you're in the right mindset, and you can push really hard and you can make a lot of change in a short period of time, or you're able to at least, that's a bite-sized chunk that you can say, okay, I can live this way for 8 weeks.
hmm
And then if it was anything past that, then you're just going to fall off naturally. You're going to call yourself a failure because you didn't keep it going. Whereas if you actually give yourself a frame that you can operate in, then you can be a success at that. And it's the same outcome. And the same thing for the nutritional side. So that's really cool. What other advice do you have for people that are looking to do the things that Jamie G does? What's is it a mindset thing for you? What else is going to be helpful to them?
Yeah. Another quote that I heard, I think I
Yeah.
may have mentioned this one too, but that being ready is a decision, not a feeling. So I think, sometimes when I'm on my Peloton at early morning hours on the weekends or
Hmm.
during the week, some of these things just really hit home. But I feel like that's it is you have to, it's a decision that you make. You can't wait for the right time. It's never going to be the right time. But, I know a lot of people have reached out that they struggle with protein, and so I feel like, I mean, good or bad,
Yeah.
I, like, proactively have to try to reel back the amount of protein that I have in
Oh,
a
really?
day.
You're almost over proteining
I
now?
am, and I think a lot of it is, again, because Tony and I do it together and really, we plan our dinner and then we plan the rest of our meals, or I plan the rest of my meals based off, what the rest of my day looks like. But, yeah, I think, protein has really, really helped in trying to figure out what those sources look like
What's your
with
go-tos?
for protein.
Yeah, or ones that maybe you didn't know about before that have been really helpful.
Well, I think, maybe I knew about them, but I just didn't like, I eat a lot, and so, for chicken, I'll eat 8 ounces of chicken instead
Yeah.
of the 3 that I think a serving is.
Hmm.
Egg whites, I have most mornings, and I have 200 grams of egg whites along with, whatever else, and so it's just I think my
Do you like egg
quantities.
whites?
I mean,
I've never tried them.
oh,
Ever.
yeah. I mean, they're not bad. I eat them most mornings
Do you
and
just eat like egg white salt?
what's that?
Just like egg whites with salt?
Oh, no, I'll throw like tomatoes and onions and spinach in them,
Okay,
and
so it's like an egg white omelet.
yeah,
A
yeah,
frittata.
yeah.
I don't know what that is, but
Yes.
yeah.
But no, we'll eat shrimp and tuna, and so yeah, a lot of meat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about non-meat? What are some things that you're like, okay, I'm not eating a full meal right now, but I got to get some protein in.
Greek yogurt.
Hell
I
yeah.
I do not do the plain stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, I know that that's, supposed to be the healthiest and
Oh,
with all the
whatever.
with all the additives in
The
it, but
healthiest thing is the one you can get yourself to eat.
yeah, yeah, exactly. No, I really like dipping apples in Greek yogurt
Okay.
and cottage cheese. I know that's a hit or miss for most people, but I love cottage cheese.
Well, how do you eat your cottage cheese?
Just plain.
Plain? You ever
Yes.
put pepper on it?
Sometimes,
You got
or
to
I'll,
try that.
I'll
Yeah.
mix tomato, cucumber, and onion in it sometimes.
Okay.
That's super good.
There's in college you have the big food bars, and so
Hmm.
everybody had all these weird combinations with cottage cheese and pineapple chunks,
Huh.
pretty dang good. I never knew the pepper thing, but cottage cheese and pepper. There was also a girl that I was really good friends with in college that she used to eat cottage cheese and ketchup, and I thought that was freaking disgusting.
Yeah,
But maybe that's not
not
a
for
go-to.
me.
Yeah, somebody else try it and tell us how it is. Um, uh, where are you going next, Jamie? What you've reached this 12% body fat. You've achieved a body that most people really dream of. And I hate to, I know that you're very humble and you almost don't like hearing that stuff. I can see your face every time that I say it. Well, that's what's also cool about your personality is that you're not boastful of this. You're not like, look at me. But where do you go from here? Because you've been this body fat for probably a good 6 months, right? Or at least fluctuating around
Hmm.
this area. What drives you now to continue to get in the gym? And is there anything that is on the future that you want to attack?
I mean, right now I feel like I just want to continue to lift heavier and try to improve in the
In their
gym.
bench press?
Yeah, in bench press specifically, yes. Yeah, that too. But just lift heavier. I don't know. My husband Tony is probably going to do a bulk in the fall, I'm guessing, and
Okay.
and so I might explore that. I
You
don't
should
know.
totally do it.
Maybe a mini bulk.
Yeah.
See where that
Is there a
goes.
part of you that worries if you get too much body fat on that you're gonna like never go back?
Not really. I feel like because I've done body comp a couple times and feel more comfortable and confident in it, I don't know. I feel like I'll be able to get to where I want to be,
Yeah.
but
You should totally do a bulk because you already have good amounts of muscle mass on you, but the difference when you actually take 3-4 months to be really on top of your calories and really come in fueled, even where you're at right now. What are you sitting at right now? Are you at maintenance?
yeah,
What's maintenance for you?
2000.
2,000 calories. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's pretty good. So, do you notice this? I notice this big time. If I'm in a deficit versus I'm at maintenance or in a surplus, the pump is completely different in the gym. Have you noticed that at all?
I mean, I definitely have a lot more energy.
Yeah. That's huge for a lot of people. If you really want to grow muscle, one, you have to lift heavy, but two, you should be chasing some type of pump from your high repetition work, which is just a bunch of blood engorging the muscle. And if you don't have enough carbohydrates and salt and you're not just eating enough in general, when you're in a caloric deficit and you come into the gym, sometimes you're lifting and yeah, it feels good, but it's just like your muscles are completely void of energy. They fatigue faster. There's not that satisfaction of feeling the blood go into the muscles as much. And when you bulk consistently for a while, you get that feeling and then it just keeps compounding and compounding and all of a sudden you feel like a freaking monster, and then when you cut down you realize how much you actually grew. The only way I ever ended up putting muscle mass on, because I was so freaking skinny for most of my life, was when I forced myself for a long time to eat 5,000 plus calories a day and see my abs go away. That's the crappy part. See the abs go away.
I figured before body comp, I was like, gosh, I probably was easily eating 3,500 calories.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, so I was bulking
What do
at
you
that point.
what do you cut on? So for most people, so you said you're how tall again? 5'6"?
5'6", yeah.
5'6". What's your cutting calories that works for you?
Yeah, so the last time I was at 1,400.
1,400?
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes total sense. For those of you listening, most people's calories that they actually need to cut on is going to be pretty. If we brought 10 women in here that were 5'6", 9 out of 10 of them are going to be on the same amount of calories. The only thing that's going to change that is some type of genetic thing that they just operate at a way higher or way lower metabolism, or if they have significantly different muscle mass. Even you, with the amount of muscle mass that you have compared to somebody who's like kind of undertrained or untrained, it's not going to be that big a difference, maybe 100 or 200 calories. What other advice you got for people? Anything else you want to say to the people that are wanting to be like Jamie G? And then we'll let you get out of here and get back to your life.
Yeah, just that I guess I'm happy to help if anybody has questions or if I can offer anything.
Where can they
I don't
find you?
that's a great question. I don't know any
You want
of
to give
my
your cell number to the
Yeah.
internet? No.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know any of my information for social media, but
How about this? If you guys are listening to this and you want to contact Jamie about something fitness related, contact Strength Academy. You can find us at Strength Academy RF on Instagram and on Facebook. And you can find us at Strength Academy 101 on pretty much every other platform that's on TikTok and YouTube. And just send us and be like, hey, I want to contact Jamie. How can I do it? And then I'll spit you to one of her social media platforms so that we're not giving away your personal information. How does that
sounds
sound?
great.
Jamie, thank you so much. This is awesome. I hope that some people that are listening to this realize that all the barriers of I've got kids, I'm over 35 years old, all that stuff, hopefully some of that's broken down for them, because your journey has been freaking amazing. It's really impressive. You guys have no idea how much diligent work that she's put in to get this far, but clearly just like sitting here, you're very satisfied with the work you put in. Do you regret it at all?
No, not whatsoever. Yeah. Best
That's
thing
awesome.
I've done.
That's awesome. Jamie, thank you so much.
Yeah,
This is
thank you.
Strength 101. Peace out.